Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this edition of the Players NIL Industry Insider Podcast. And my guest today, Grant Breneman. Grant, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Happy to be on.
Well, we want to talk about your work and the starting of your new company called Arvelo Media. But before we get there, I always try to make it a little bit personal. The first principle of our business is how do you use athletics to better your life? And it doesn't mean that you have to be an athlete. It could be an experience. It could be that you just played sports in high school. You happen to play sports at the Division I level. You happen to play the most coveted position in the game, quarterback. But before you got to Colgate University, go back to your life in Central Pennsylvania. What sports did you play? Who were your idols? Who did you cheer for? And what were some of those early memories of sports?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thanks for having me on. But yeah, going back to growing up in Central PA, I come from an athletic family. My dad played college football. My older brother played Division I college football as well. He was a tight end at Penn State and UMass. My younger sister played Division I field hockey at St. Francis University. She was a captain there. So as you can imagine, growing up in our household, it was, really sport focused. We were, your typical Central PA fans as far as Penn State fans growing up, Philly sports fans, all the above. So, I remember having posters of Donovan McNabb, in my room and just cheering them on. But I think growing up in kind of a competitive household, having an older brother that would beat me up, in the backyard or playing one-on-one basketball, whatever it was, just taught me a lot about kind of perseverance and kind of self-confidence and being able to handle failure. But yeah, as I moved, through high school and started getting recruited, had the opportunity to play quarterback at Colgate University, which is in the Patriot League. So had an amazing experience there. And not only from an athletic standpoint, but also an academic standpoint, really put me in the position to kind of really have confidence launching a career. And, we'll get into that a little bit, but I think the main theme is, what athletics has taught me is, yes, it's all of like the discipline and the hard work that you have to do that to be successful in athletics. But it's honestly more along the lines of being able to be okay when you fail and bouncing back from that no matter what.
Yeah. Great background. I did some homework on you. You lived in Central Pennsylvania, Camp Hill. It's outside of Harrisburg, the heart of football country, the heart of wrestling country, actually. It's a huge wrestling area as well. You played quarterback. The quarterback position is multifaceted. Obviously, you have to have some physical talents. But tell us about the emotional, mental strength that it took, the leadership skills that you developed in high school in particular, that made you or prepared you to be a quarterback at the next level.
Yeah, I was lucky enough actually my freshman year of high school to sit behind a quarterback named Andrew Ford, who was a Elite 11 quarterback, ended up playing at Virginia Tech and UMass. So got to sit behind a guy at a high level before I got to go, into it full time as a starter my sophomore year. But I mean, that really taught me a lot just about how to carry yourself. Yes, you need, to be working out, you need to have all the physical attributes, the arm strength, but a lot about how you carry yourself on the field, how you react to adversity. Every single person in that huddle is, looking towards you. And a lot of times, you kind of have to have that stone faced. You have to be, put on the leadership mentality, even if there's things in your mind, even when, you throw an interception and you come off to the sideline, right? You don't have time to pout. Everyone's looking at you. So that really taught me a lot about leadership, about, really understanding that, there's people in the huddle looking at you and, need to lean on you, in tough times.
Yeah, great answer. And I think it's a great lesson for young people. And you don't have to be a quarterback to take advantage of those things. There's leaders and captains on teams that aren't quarterbacks all the time. And honestly, I played on some teams where the captains, the leaders of the team, were not the best players. They were not the starters. But those are the ones that, maybe They were the coach's right hand in terms of, this is the way we do things, establishing a standard and all those great things. You go to Colgate University, as we talked about. I spent 25 years in Central New York, about 20 minutes away from Colgate. I know it very well. And I've had this theory for a long time, and I'm not playing up to you, but Colgate may not be the national brand that other schools are, but I know it very well. And I say this about Colgate alums. They are as passionate about their school as any other school in the country. Every time I met a Colgate alum, whether it was, at Colgate or in Los Angeles or at the Super Bowl or wherever I was at an elite level, guys like Mark Murphy,
Yep.
who used to live in Casanova, these guys and gals, these women, they're passionate about your school. So you go to Colgate. For those of you who don't know, the Patriot League is an FCS school, unbelievable academics, great alumni, as I just mentioned. Give us a quick synopsis of your college experience and how you took the lessons from high school and the additional lessons that you learned at the next level where you're under the microscope in a much different way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I kind of joke that playing football at Colgate, the Patriot League, we're kind of the real student athletes as far as, we were playing high level Division I football, obviously not at the FBS Power 5 level, but we kind of have all the same standards while also having pretty rigorous academic standards as well. So I spent plenty of nights, especially in the fall, being in the coach's office watching film till 10 a.m., then going to the library till midnight or 1 a.m., finishing up work. But at the same, like you mentioned, it's a very small school, but very competitive athletics and a great alumni base. So, the relationships that I was able to create there, I almost consider that kind of like my NIL, right? Going to Colgate, right? You're not a national brand as we talk in, the NIL, but that's really kind of how you capitalize. You build your network within, the Colgate alumni community, and you're able to lean on that as you kind of move into the professional world.
I'm so glad that you said that because it just validates things that I've been preaching now for 2.5 years. And that is, again, you don't have to be a Power 4 starting quarterback. You don't have to be the superstar basketball player at Kentucky or Duke or UConn to benefit from this, what I call NIL era. And clearly you were there right before NIL was authorized. So, collectives and payments and those types of things didn't exist, but yet you used it to leverage your celebrity as an athlete and to create relationships. I had a son that was fortunate enough to be recruited by some Ivy League schools. I won't name the school, but the coach said to us, it was the greatest recruiting pitch I'd ever heard. And I've heard a lot now. He said, son, if you come to this school and play quarterback, you will never need a resume again for the rest of your life. And I was like, whoa, that's a statement, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a little bit exaggerated or not, or I believed it, right? And it was a great pitch. So you're quarterback at Colgate, this great alumni base, all these life lessons, perseverance. You had some success on the field. Academically, you're a math and economics major. You were not majoring in sociology or some nondescript major. How did you leverage that to your first career move out after college?
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to the experience at Colgate, even getting recruited, our coach, the pitch is kind of like, this is going to be a hard environment. Nothing that you do is going to be easy, but because you'll have the alumni coming through that have done that, especially from an athletic standpoint, they understand the work that it takes to kind of achieve that. So yeah, was able to actually leverage kind of a few relationships to get some experience in the finance world, and moved to Manhattan. After school, I'm a small town Central PA guy, so Manhattan was definitely a culture shock for me, but gave me a really good opportunity to get involved from kind of a corporate finance standpoint. I worked on the corporate side and the buy side of mergers and acquisitions. After I graduated. So that was a great experience, really, in another structured, kind of disciplined area, almost similar to, you feel like you're going into, the locker room as a freshman on the football team and working your way up, and you're learning a ton. But what that did was kind of give me the confidence and I think like the background knowledge of understanding business so that I could, when the moment was right, make a jump, for an entrepreneurial opportunity, which is what I've done, relatively recently, moving to launch our new business, Arvelo Media, which is in the sports media space, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But one of the exciting things there is I mentioned, my siblings. I'm actually starting the business with my brother Adam. So I think that's another thing about sports is you always need a team. You always need to lean on other people. So it's an exciting opportunity to link back up with him and make the jump from kind of a more structured finance role to something where I have a little bit more say.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Arvelo Media now, but I just want to say that I have found that there are lots and lots of athletes in today's environment that have an entrepreneurial spirit. And one of the great byproducts of name, image, and likeness, the NIL era, as I say, is that you have the opportunity to create a brand, to build relationships, whether it be, as an influencer or as a partnership or raise capital or, do all of the P&L things, right? The marketing things, the tax things. And so these kids today have a jump on their predecessors because they're beginning this journey. According to your website, Arvelo Media is at the intersection of creativity and strategy of athletic companies. Tell us about Arvelo Media. What's the name mean? First of all, that was my question. And what's the concept? What are you trying to build?
Yeah. Starting with the name, we were trying to be creative and trying to come up with something that was original. So the AR in Arvelo is supposed to symbolize, kind of the art behind the content and the media that we make. And then the velo is supposed to represent velocity or speed. So again, we kind of combine the art and expertise behind, the content side with, the speed and, kind of velocity behind it. So that's the idea behind Arvelo Media. Put simply, we create game-changing content for sports brands. So that's sports companies. We work with a few startup sports tech businesses. We also have relationships with other entities across the sports space, especially like NIL collectives. Then we also work with select athletes as well on their everything from short form content like Instagram Reels or TikToks to graphics across those platforms to YouTube videos, original series, and things of that nature. But basically, the thesis behind Arvelo is so my brother Adam has kind of built out a name for himself in the sports media space, especially kind of being a social first personality. And what we both realized through his journey is there is a large demand for sports content across the board. And we want to be kind of that specialized partner to work with these different entities to have this, again, the sports expertise behind understanding what content needs to be pushed out through these social media channels. And then, really helping them grow and produce content at a high level. So that's kind of the idea behind it. And I think I put out a LinkedIn post the other day about how NIL from a social media and content standpoint is totally changing the game and creating a lot of opportunities. And we've seen that already. It's really timed up. It has been a main driver behind us really launching the business. As you think about from a player perspective, from a collector perspective, an educational perspective, like the content that you're creating. So, there's a lot of opportunities to capitalize out there because of the cash influx coming in through NIL.
Yeah. I tell people, when I speak to groups that, we've never celebrated athletes at a higher level. NIL has been around for 100 years, back to Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb. Professional athletes have been monetizing their brand forever. And we started to see the erosion of that with the 92 Dream Team as the Olympics removed the restrictions on NBA players. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, NIL in the NCAA level, July 1st, 2021. So athletes as influencers, when I say athletes as influencers, how do you react to that? What does it mean? And how do you incorporate that into your business?
Yeah, I think that, one of the main themes that I have learned over the years especially watching my brother Adam kind of grow his social media influence from nothing, is the power of an athlete's platform, especially one that is playing high level sports, male or female. I think that that's one thing that, especially when you think about high level male athletes, especially in college athletics, is we're often, myself included when I was playing, a little bit more hesitant about putting ourselves out there from a content perspective. And when you bring in kind of the NIL landscape, you realize how valuable and how powerful those platforms are across, across social media. And that's kind of a main message and the main theme that we've seen across the landscape, as we kind of work with people throughout sports.
That's a great answer. And I think, athletes as influencers only going to grow. But let's talk about the other side. Let's talk about the brand side. You have some familiarity. You're early in the development of Arvelo Media, but clearly you have a vision. Why do brands care about athletes? Why should they care about athletes as influencers?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the same thing of why athletes are successful as influencers. It's because the fan base is there. If you see the trends, you can look at the trends of sports consumption. Other than live sports, you have the majority of content being consumed on social media. So when it's kind of the same thesis when you think about, okay, why are athletes able to garner a lot of attention is because all the fans are on these platforms and they're consuming content on these platforms. So when you talk with businesses, that want to create and reach these audiences, the main place to go, especially, kind of from a cost effective and time to market standpoint, it's not traditional, commercials. It is creating, especially organic content especially when it comes to sports, through these social media channels and reaching an audience, through those methods. So I think it's when you look at it from both the athlete and the business perspective, there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're in the early stages of that. And I think, unfortunately, NIL, what we're talking about, name, image, and likeness, what I refer to as real, REAL, realistic NIL, has been hijacked by the collectives, right? It's not NIL. It's pay for play, and it's collided with the transfer portal, and it's created what people think NIL is. But real NIL is a transactional relationship where both sides win. And I think that's the place that you're in, and I love it. What does success look like to Arvelo Media?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, early on, success for us is delivering on exactly, what we're promising, which is the high quality content with a really good understanding of how to reach audiences. We kind of, our message is we will tell you the truth no matter what. We will not promise somebody that they're going to become, the next massive influencer, or promise a brand that they're going to instantly go viral, or kind of the quick wins. It's more, we are long-term partners, and we want to see real growth in brand awareness for everyone that we work with. And that's really, if we can achieve that, the business part is going to take care of itself.
Yeah, I have this theory that has been evolved for a long time. We've been in the adult world for some period of time, and that is people like to work with smart people. Right? No one likes to work with dumb people, whether they're partners. Sorry to your brother. I hope he's a smart guy and you're a smart guy. You'll get along. I'm sure it is. I'm teasing, but clients, partnerships, businesses. Athletes don't want to work with brands that aren't acting smartly. And brands definitely don't want to work with athletes, especially young athletes that aren't responsible. How are you navigating that? How are you managing that relationship?
Yeah, I think it's, again, kind of becoming that trusted partner who understands kind of the landscape and can tell the truth. And we kind of always say too, when we're working with clients, as we need to be on the same page in order for it to become a mutually beneficial relationship. But I think the more that, especially from an athlete perspective, that they can understand the power of their platform and the way that they're able to garner the attention, the more that they can lean into that and understand it. I think, especially as, one of the main themes that I really see happening is it's going to be tough to keep up donor, the level of donor participation across all NIL collectives, especially if a team isn't super successful right away, right? So instead of having athletes rely on, just their on-field performance and a promise of a paycheck, which isn't really true NIL, it's how do they actually create a valuable platform that other brands, especially sports brands, want to lean into and use because they're able to, again, capture the attention of audiences that really care.
Are you coaching athletes in that process?
We not directly, but we do tend to advise. Again, like we kind of want to give out as much information as possible. We don't really hold anything back because the more value that we can bring to the community, the better it is for everyone, and everyone should win. So directly coaching, no, but given our network and kind of the people that we talk to, both from the athlete perspective, the collective perspective, brand perspective, it's kind of an open conversation that we've been having.
Great. Where can we find more information on Arvelo Media? Where do we find you on the interweb?
Yeah. Our LinkedIn and Instagram pages are live. You can also follow me on LinkedIn. I'll be putting out, a lot of content about kind of the world of sports social media, the world of sports content on LinkedIn. Just my name, Grant Breneman. So give us a follow. Would love to interact with anyone, answer any questions as we move forward.
Great. Well, Grant, you represent everything that's good about athletics, the adversity, the tough times, the success, using it to better your life, going to a great institution like Colgate, using that experience to get a degree and to get a job, and now fueling your entrepreneurial blood. I mean, you're living America's dream. So congratulations to you on the start of Arvelo Media and all the success that you've had today.
I appreciate it, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we wish you nothing but success down the road. And, please, people, check it out. This is athletes doing great things for other athletes and brands. I think it's an amazing story, and we wish you nothing but the best.
Great. Thanks, Mark.